I feel like there is a Drake that lives inside of his body that can do what we thought he was gonna do, but that Drake
Uh-huh.
is just not showing up.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I agree with you. I think, but I don't want to make it seem like I think these records suck. I want to
Yeah, no,
reiterate,
they did it. They
right? I
did.
want to reiterate that Drake's records have been solid. They just haven't been on the Kendrick level. And that shows greatly when Family Matters drop, excuse me, when Meet the Grams drops minutes later.
Let, let me say something. Dear Adonis is all I needed to hear. I didn't need to hear the rest of the song. I did not need to hear the rest of the song. The rest of the song could not have existed. He could have just said Dear Adonis, dot, 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 and the song could have been over.
Right.
And I would have been like, Kendrick won. That's it. It's over. But he goes on to talk to everybody in the family,
Everybody.
even someone we didn't know was a part of the family, allegedly.
He,
Um,
yep.
Let me tell you something. I don't have kids. Um, don't talk to my kid.
Right.
Don't talk to my kid.
Yeah. Even
Don't say
even
his
Eminem
name.
said, Eminem said, I heard Haley's name on a song and I just lost it.
You see black, red, however you whatever you normally say, because people say different things. But no,
Dear
don't.
Adonis, dear Sandra, dear
Dear
baby
baby,
girl. Right.
and dear. I think there's a dear Dennis in there too. I think his dad's name is
Then he
Dennis.
spoke to dad too.
Yeah,
Yep.
but
And then
don't talk to Adonis.
at the end of that, then it was dear Aubrey.
Right. Don't. All right. You want to talk to my mom and my dad? They're adults. You shouldn't, because I'ma still fuck you up. But you talking to my son, telling him
Yes.
you want to mentor
Listen, you don't understand right now. Just play this when you turn 18.
him? Just the memes alone and the videos alone, the
No,
parody
man.
videos alone of people pretending to be Adonis getting grounded and going in his room and blasting Kendrick is just. I would be pissed if I was Drake. I would be angry.
Yeah.
I would go for blood. He didn't even have to say anything past Adonis. Who cares? Who cares? This song is over. I just, and he was in his whisper tone, like the kids were in the next room sleeping.
Until a certain point.
Yeah,
Until a certain point. Because
but
when he said, until he said, a fucking pedophile who should never say more life, that
right,
was
right.
not a whisper. I
It
was
was not
like,
a
ooh.
whisper,
Oh,
but
not pedophile, a deadbeat. Sorry.
yes. But
Deadbeat.
I will say the range that Kendrick has been showing, the way he switches up his cadence, the way he goes from yelling to whispering, just I just feel like he Drake is not creative. And
We'll get to that. Oh, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
think that's where the disparity is here.
Yep.
In theory, Drake and Kendrick should be matched up because of when they came in the game, but there's a long list, right, of
Yep.
reasons why you would put these two people against each other. But if we're just talking about creativity alone, and I know Rick Ross keeps saying, your writers, Drake, your writers, Drake, even if it is writers,
Right.
they're no
Well,
match.
last Tuesday, when Euphoria came out, that's what I said. I said on Euphoria, Kendrick came with all of the things in his utility belt.
Yeah.
We heard six voices. We heard three beats. We heard different cadences. We heard so many things. And Kendrick has continued to do that. He has continued to show us different ways that he can be creative and that he can deliver raps as an MC,
Yeah.
right? So we've seen him create different ways. He hasn't only taken one angle. He's attacked Drake, your character as a man, the type of women you date, the father you are not. It's been all over the place and more, which we'll get to when we get to the next record. But,
Yeah.
you know, when I heard Meet the Grams, I said, wow, Meet the Grams. Number one, for that to come out just minutes later is crazy. Number two, this feels like a knockout punch.
Yeah.
Even if you take away the verse about the 11-year-old daughter, even if that was not on the record, to
Hmm.
me, this
Hmm.
still feels like one of those punches that leaves you spinning and seeing stars. Like, oh man, what just happened right here? I don't really know where we're at. What day of the week is it? I don't know. That's what that's what Meet the Grams felt like. When you're saying the niggas' parents' names by name, like y'all are cool. You feel what I'm saying? Like you just up there like, hey JD, let me tell you something. No, 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 no.
He said, "I'm sorry, your dad didn't wear a condom."
He
I
your
was like,
grandfather. Your grandfather.
your grandfather didn't wear a condom." I was like,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's when you start sinking into yourself a little bit. You're like, this is uncomfortable now.
Yes, yes.
this is this is starting to get serious. We were all laughing a week
Yep,
ago.
yep.
Especially when you have like commentary from Rick Ross going white boy,
Right, making
whatever,
jokes.
and this talking about Drake's identity issues and things like that,
Right,
didn't
right.
see
You
just
know,
seeing
it was
like,
it was funny. You know, hey white boy. I know you got your Dockers on with no drawers,
right.
white boy.
Right. And like we knew that at the root of those things there were serious themes underlying. Yes,
Right,
because if we're going to talk about Drake's proximity to blackness, that's a serious conversation that we could have, but
right.
just we were
The
able to kind of
quality
have a
of Meet the
conversation that
Grams and stepping on family matters. Drake was on the floor by that point. Absolutely, Josh. I
yeah,
agree. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying when I
yeah.
say the Drake records have been good, but they have not felt like a knockout punch. Again, right now
No,
we're
they
only
haven't.
at chronologically we're at Meet the Grams. We're gonna get to the other stuff in a minute, but just when you hear Meet the Grams, it feels like, hey, this is over, kid. This is
Yeah.
over.
I
This
mean,
this one is. If it's not over, somebody throw in the towel because it's over for Drake.
again, when I heard Dear Adonis, the
Right,
battle was over for me. The,
right.
the I called it in that moment. I didn't need whatever came after that because the way he said it, he was calm. He wasn't upset.
It was sincere.
I know you're talking about he gets to a point where but at that point when the song first starts, he's very chill. He's very measured. He's
Right,
just like, hey, again, I am one of the people who like to think that Kendrick is, putting the kids to bed and
and goes to rap after.
goes to rap after, which it totally tracks. Because after I read that, then this came out and he sounded like he was whispering for a while, and I was like, those kids are sleeping, aren't they? They are, and that's okay. Listen, you got daddy duty first. That's
Right.
important. But this just it was like it felt very effortless, but
Yeah.
at the same time very calculated. And some of the things that he was saying, it was just like, oh,
Right.
oh, oh, and over this beat, oh, this
Right.
is this is how is Drake gonna come back? Like, what is Drake gonna say? How are
Right.
they gonna like? Is it over? Because this feels like it's over.
Yes. And that's the part that I think is important here because when we hear Kendrick's records, it sounds like a heavy punch. It
Yeah,
feels like the kind of punch when you're watching a boxing match that you hear the and you're like,
yeah,
oh. Drake's records have not felt that way again
yeah,
up until the point of Meet the Grams. His records were good, But when Meet the Grants comes out, it feels like, hey, you know what? I'll show you what it felt like. Yeah, it's gonna be a little dramatic, but just bear with me. It felt like this. It felt like this one's close it, close the book. This one is done. That's what it seemed like when you hear Meet the Grants. And again, to me, you could answer for you, but for me, that stays even if you take out the verse about the alleged 11-year-old daughter.
Oh, yeah.
Because a lot of people are focusing on that part and saying that's why it's a knockout punch. I think
No.
without that, it still feels that way.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
It
Well, oh, go ahead.
he and I feel like he very meticulously nestled it in between all of the
Yeah.
other things.
Right. Because
So
by the time we get to the 11-year-old daughter, we already spoke to Adonis. We already spoke to Drake's parents. And then we get to the daughter third before we wrap it up by speaking directly to Drake.
yeah,
Aubrey, excuse me.
Aubrey,
Aubs.
Obs, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
that was wild.
Oh
But Kendrick wasn't done.
no,